Mental Health on College Campuses by April Cano. Mental health is the psychological state of someone who is functioning at a satisfactory level of emotional and behavioral adjustment. For college students, this is compiled of their adjustment to the new scene, different people, and an involved schedule. Support should come from various angles such as family, classmates, and university staff. In the case of Shin versus Massachusetts Institute of Technology, or MIT, Mr. and Mrs. Shin, the parents of Elizabeth Shin, filed a 25-count complaint against MIT after their daughter committed suicide on their campus in April of 2012. MIT motioned to have a summary of judgment for the claims. A summary of judgment is defined as the final decision by a judge upon a party's motion that resolves a lawsuit before there is a trial because no triable issues of fact exist. It is important to know a few things about MIT first. Tuition, room, and board cost approximately $35,000 per academic year. This cost covered housing, food, educational services, and health and medical services. This information was published and distributed to the students and their families prior to enrollment. Let's start with Elizabeth's freshman year at MIT. She enrolled at the age of 18 in September of 1998, and it wasn't until her second semester that she first started showing signs of psychiatric problems with a drug overdose. At this time, she admitted to prior psychiatric problems, and her parents were notified by residence hall staff. They then came to campus and assisted Elizabeth in getting help through MIT's Psychiatric and Mental Health Clinic. From February to May 1999, Elizabeth met with a psychiatrist on campus and was diagnosed with things like adjustment disorder and situational issues. During Elizabeth's sophomore year, she continued showing signs of mental illness. During the first semester, deans, counselors, and professors expressed concern to the mental health office. During her second semester, the ill behaviors continued and students began expressing concern. On April 8th, Elizabeth made her first verbal threat to commit suicide to a fellow student. 2 days later, on April 10th, she made the second verbal threat to 2 students. This raised fear in the residence hall staff, and the information was passed on to the mental health professionals. In a meeting with the mental health professionals and the deans, they decided that outside treatment would be best for Elizabeth and that this treatment would begin the next day. However, the night of April 10th at 9 p.m., the smoke alarm sounded in Elizabeth's room and she was found on fire, causing third-degree burns over 65% of her body. She was pronounced dead on April 14th, and on April 18th, the autopsy declared suicide. Almost 2 years later, on January 28, 2002, Elizabeth's parents filed a lawsuit against MIT administrators, professionals, psychiatrists, and police officers. MIT filed motion for summary of judgment on all counts. On June 27, 2005, the preliminary hearing ruled that MIT owed a duty of care to the victim based on a special relationship between university officials and students. The summary of judgment was approved for all but the gross negligence count. Trial was set for May 2006, but the case was closed on April 3, 2006, due to an unspoken agreement between the Shins and MIT declaring that the suicide was actually an accident. While the judge did grant the motion of summary of judgment for most of the claims, the court denied the motion of summary of judgment for gross negligence, which is defined as an act or omission respecting legal duty of an aggravated character as distinguished from mere failure to exercise ordinary care. This raises question on how higher education professionals should handle this from here on out. Gary Pavella uses Shin case and other research to prove that while a common response is to withdraw these students, that is unlawful and unethical. What can we do as professionals? Pavella introduced the Illinois plan. Invite and encourage students to see mental health professionals, identify suicide as a prohibited act of violence, enforce a mandated professional assessment, create a suicide intervention team on campus, and use a mandated reporting system for future occurrences.